Welcome back to Animation Teacher. This is our second video of our Intro to Harmony. This week we talk about arm building. In addition, what we'll be doing is we'll be animating our arm using 3 different animation techniques. Alright, so let's get started. I'll name this arm building, but we'll include arm animation in it. Okay, here we go. So the first thing we'll do is I'm going to turn off this X sheet. I don't know why I have that on. Here's my library. Okay, first thing we'll do is we'll create a sketch for our arm. And we're just going to keep everything simple for today. So let's get some colors. I use red. So what you can do is design any kind of arm. For my Seneca students, we'll just be using this arm that I just made here. So what we want to do is we actually want to create it into 2 parts. The arm, which includes the bicep and the forearm, and then the hand. So the hand will be just a general cartoony hand here. Okay, so that's my sketch. Next, I'm going to clean it up. So this will be my bicep. And to clean up, I'm actually going to create a new color here, and I'll call this arm outline. And why don't we go with a nice green. Okay, so I'll do this in 2 parts. The first part, so I'm just going to draw out the forearm and part of the bicep. And I'm going to fill it. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically going to utilize the overlay and the underlay layers. It's not that important, but because I'm on the camera view, this is a lot easier for me to deal with. So this will be my bicep outline. Name this the arm outline or arm fill. Here's my bicep outline, and we'll use a different color here. I'm just randomly picking colors. I am not very good with color at all, which is funny because I originally wanted to be a painter, and then I fell in love with animation. Bicep fill. Probably worked out for the best. Okay, as you can see, my lines are pretty thin. What's nice is if you actually want to select your overlay and line art layer, you can actually use this button here. So all of that, and then you can change your line art size. So that works. Okay, so I'm gonna have to make sure to turn that off. so it doesn't affect my layers. Alright, so here is my cleaned up bicep. So for those of you who are still learning how to clean up with Bezier curves, what you're doing is you're holding Alt while you're manipulating the lines, and Control allows you to add a new point. Okay, so that's basically it, and actually I think I had a logo on it, so let's just throw something on here. Go logo fill, or logo fill, and this will be logo outline. Alright, so I want to make sure that my line, or my outline, is the color we could see pretty well. I'll pick a dark purple here, and I'm just gonna crank up my line quality here. Alright. I don't know if you noticed, but the alpha is set to 153 here, and that basically makes everything transparent for that color, and that's an indication of that. So let's just crank that. I don't want any transparency for now. I'm going to use my eyedropper to match the purple, and then I'll pick a lighter version of it, and we'll fill that. Okay, so oops. Alright. So if you don't want that to cut away next time, you can just group it by right-clicking and hitting Group or Control G. I'm just going to refill this bicep here. So then that way, next time I want to move, oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I actually have to fill it first. And then now, if I move my group, it won't cut away into it. Okay, so I have my basic bicep forearm. The next thing I want to do is I want to clean up my hand. So I'll go into my node view, hit Control R again, type hand, add and close, and we'll just give it another hand color. Now, I stress creating colors because I stress the need to create color palettes, I should say, just because you want to be sure you have everything organized properly. Okay, so I'm going to go for a dark brown here, and I'll put skin outline. Oh. Just want it a little bit thicker. If you want to match the line weight, all you have to do is click on the actual line itself, and it'll tell you. So 10.6. So I'm going to create a box 10.6 just to match. Now it's important when you do create when you do create an overlap of your hand here into your wrist, you want to be able to ensure that you're rounding it off. That'll give you the most flexibility when it comes to being able to rotate your hand on your wrists. Okay, so here's a little trick that it takes a little while to get a hang of, but basically this is to create intersections. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a new point and cross these points to create even more new points, if that makes any sense at all. And the idea is that you want to create an intersection so you don't have to introduce new lines, and also this way you can ensure that you actually have a closed line the whole way through for your drawing. So this takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get it, it should be good. And you could basically clean up anything in this technique. Once again, I'm crossing like that, and you get rid of these extra points. Again, these videos, I'm basically just showing you what some of my peers and I are so used to doing at work every day. And there's a reason and a purpose to doing it like this. It just makes production so much easier when somebody has to go in and adjust or create new artwork based on your cleaned up drawings. The idea is to keep your lines and your points minimalistic to prevent any unnecessary points, really. Now, okay, I don't want to get into it too much, but you can add line weight to that as well. Just for now, though, we'll just keep this straight line. Okay, so here we go. We have our hand. Now, I'm just gonna layer the hand behind the bicep. There's the hand. Did I? Oh, I drew it on my bicep. Okay, that's okay. I'm gonna copy, or I'm gonna cut rather. Go to my hand and paste. Alright, so now we have our hand there. That's fine. And I'm just gonna adjust this arm. Originally, I was thinking to have this just a short sleeve, but I guess this started. It's a long sleeve here. Actually, his arms are kind of short. It's like little CeeLo arms. I'm just gonna extend this a little bit. And I accidentally put this on the overlay layer. I'll cut that, paste it on the line art layer, and we'll just move it down. So when your box is orange, you're actually moving the raw art, which is what you want to do when you're building. So once you have that, what you can do then is you can set your anchor point. Before you do that, I like to turn the drawing pivot so it's parent peg. What that means is when we introduce a peg, it'll basically stay true to the pegs. So I'm gonna create pegs now by hitting Control P while I have the item selected, and I'll go to the hand, and to set your peg you need to pull up the coordinates. So I'm gonna do that now, and oh sorry, not the coordinates, advanced animation, and I'm gonna use this tool here, and I'm gonna put the pivot for the hand about where the wrist should be, and for the bicep I'm going to put it up to there. So to set the pivot, oops, sorry, you have to use this transform tool first, and then or this translate tool I should say, to arrange for the pivot point, and to actually set it you actually have to click out or hit this transform button here. Alright, so I'm going to deactivate my sketch by hitting D, and basically here's our arm. So normally I would encourage everybody to do some sketches or keys for your animation, but just for this video I'm going to bypass that, and I'm just going to go ahead and animate. But before I do that, I'm going to create a master peg. I'm just going to name this master peg, and I have to make sure this is set to separate for animation to work. 3D paths we'll get into later on, but usually for 3D paths we keep that mostly for motion movements. I want to ensure that these are actually separate paths as well. Otherwise my animation will be messed up. What you can also do is pull up your node view, highlight everything, and I believe it's this button here. You can set everything to separate and parent peg up here so you don't have to worry about it. But you want to make sure you do this at the end once everything is set. You don't want to be introducing new pegs and drawings and losing track of where everything is. I'm going to turn off my running man here, my animate button, and shift my drawing over. Doing this basically allows you to move the drawing without creating any keys. Alright, first animation. I'm going to collapse my layers here. Oh, wait a minute. Here, let me show you something cool first. This is what we'll need to do. We're going to introduce a deformation to this. So to do that, just right click, pull up your deformation, and we're going to use, we use a bone deformer for this one. I'm going to show you what that does. So when you create a bone deformer, what you want to do is basically point and click to the areas where you want the articulation to take place. Then you go in and pull that circle like I just did there, and then you just hit this translate tool or transform tool. That allows you a quick simple animation or a quick simple rig. Alright, so let's just do a quick antic, overshoot, and settle for our first animation. And what should we do here? How about we do a karate chop? So let's see, our first key, let's just set it up here. Okay, so this will be our starting key. I'm going to turn off my animated man here and move my arm down to frame it better. Okay, and we'll turn it back on. So our first key is this. I usually like to hold the first key for a little bit, so I'm going to hit F6 again on frame 10. The next one, my antic. So the antic is basically the wind up. So this is the wind up. And I want to move my arms up. Now let's not worry about these lines crossing for now. There's a way to fix it, but in this lesson we're just going to show you how to animate this. Okay. There's one more thing that I do have to add though. It's called a kinetic output. And that exists in my node library. The kinetic output basically allows me to rotate this hand while maintaining the original anchor point. So see how the pivot point or anchor point is here, but when I use the deformer, it's still there. So with the kinetic output, I can just connect my hand underneath in between that, and that allows me to just rotate my hand like so. Alright, next is the chop, I guess. This will be the overshoot. So the overshoot, I'm going to basically end up in my settle position again, or my start position. So to copy this frame over to frame 12, I'm going to actually hold down while holding control and let go. So now I have frame 10, 11, 12. So for the 12, my overshoot, it's actually exactly the same as my settle. So I'm going to go to frame 13 and hit F6 again and go back to frame 12. The only difference is there's a little bit more of a skew and overshoot. You're overpassing the actual arm. So I'm just going to rotate it past the point, and I like to add a little bit of a skew and in just a little bit there of an overshoot settle. So this is your antic overshoot settle. Okay, and we'll time it out in classical standard form. Oops. I like to hold, you can pull your keys like that, or you can just click on the key prior and hit Shift plus. That pushes it forward. So the antic, I hit Control K to bring it up. I like to hold on the antic a little longer. So I'm going to press Shift plus on that. And then as it comes down fairly quick, but I want to hold this for a little bit longer. So I'm going to hit F6 there, and I'll hit Control K, and then that'll come down. That's come down a little too slowly, so I'm going to click on frame 17 and hit minus to speed that up a little bit. And then that's the overshoot and settle. So once again, to add frames, click on frame 19, hit Shift plus. My settles, I like it in about 4 frames. So this is basically what it looks like without any eases. Alright, so we'll cover eases more in depth in another lesson, but I'll show you how to ease real quick here. You gotta pull up your timeline view. And we'll extend it a little bit. And you want to look for this guy here. It's set ease to multiple parameters. So when we click that, what we want to do is when you're easing into something, you want to put in a number in the left time ratio. And as you slowly ease out of something, you'll put it on the right time ratio. And then again, as you settle, you want it over on the left time ratios. Now these numbers may appear arbitrary, but they're kind of a tried and true formula. Alright, so that's your antic, overshoot, and settle. Now the next thing I want to show you is what I like to call the push and cushion. So the push and cushion works like this. Basically, you're going from your starting position and you're just pushing your arm into the next position without any major action in between. Now the only difference is you're slowing it down into a subtle, soft stop. So it's almost like you're easing into it. Now, when you're using a deformer, you have to be careful not to distort your art too much. Alright, so this is basically it. For a push and cushion, you can do an overshoot and settle as well, but I find that redundant, so we're just going to go with that. So for the push and cushion, I'm going to just hold a few frames before I start the animation again. And I'm just going to tween, Control K. And then I'm going to tween it again. So with this, the only ease that you need to do is the one at the end. You want to just ease into that, like about 45. Alright, so this is what it looks like. Super simple. Alright, so we have the antic, overshoot, settle, push and cushion. The next one I want to show you, and the last one, is basically a dip. It's kind of like an antic, overshoot, settle, but it's kind of like you're introducing an arc. So let's say, let's bring this back to default. So to reset your deformer, just click on this, any of the boxes, and hit this, and that'll reset it. So let's start with that. And the same rules apply. You do need an antic, but in this case, my antic has a dip in it. Okay? And then it recovers back up. Okay? I'm just going to reset this. I don't know what kind of action this is, but basically it'll follow the same rule. So this is the overshoot, let's say, and then the settle. Settle is just a softer version of the overshoot. Okay? And then now we'll do the same thing. Let's let it hold for a little bit. We'll shift plus that. I'm going to start the animation here. Let's extend that a little longer. And there's your overshoot and settle. Settle 4 frames. That's 5. Okay. So the settle we know. We're going to add some number there. 65, 80, around there. Your antic. Now your antic, because it's going in an arc and it changes direction, you want to introduce a ease in and an ease out. So usually ease in, ease outs are 35, 35, or 40, 40, 35. This action here, you can leave at 0. So it kind of looks like that. All right. Okay, so let's just end that there. And let's look at all 3 at the same time. Oh, if you don't want to see your deformer anymore, just click away and then click this. So let's have a look at this. Antic, overshoot, settle, push and cushion, and then antic with an arc. Okay, so that's basically it. And if you want access to this file, if you're my students, just shoot me an email. Actually, anybody, if you guys want access to this particular file, I can share it with you via email. Just shoot me a message, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. I'm just gonna save this. See you next week.